I never expected my life to change because of a spilled cup of coffee, but that's exactly how it started. I had been working at the same marketing firm for 3 years, buried in spreadsheets and client reports, trying to ignore the quiet ache inside me that never quite went away. I didn't have a name for it back then, just a persistent sense that something about me didn't fit, like wearing shoes a size too small. Then there was Jess. She worked in the design department, always dressed in sleek blouses and skirts that swished when she walked. I admired her confidence, the way she carried herself without apology. We weren't close, just co-workers who exchanged polite nods in the break room, until the day I fumbled my coffee all over my shirt. It was one of those clumsy, humiliating moments where time slows down, and you wish the floor would swallow you whole. Jess was there before I could even react, handing me a stack of napkins with a sympathetic smile. Instead of just letting me clean up and slink back to my desk, she leaned in and said, "You know, I keep an extra blouse in my drawer for emergencies. It might be a little small, but it's better than smelling like espresso all day." I hesitated. The idea of wearing her clothes sent a strange thrill through me, something between excitement and terror. But the coffee was cold and sticky, so I nodded. Her office was neat, scented with something floral. She rummaged through a drawer and pulled out a soft, pale blue blouse. "Here," she said, handing it to me. "The bathroom's free if you want to change." I locked myself in the stall, my hands trembling as I unbuttoned my coffee-stained shirt. The blouse was silky against my skin, the cut subtly feminine in a way that made my pulse race. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself, or maybe, for the first time, I did. Jess's eyes flickered when I stepped out, but she didn't laugh or make a joke. Instead, she tilted her head and said, "It suits you." 2 words, casual as anything, but they lodged in my chest like a key turning in a lock. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way the fabric had felt, the quiet thrill of seeing myself in something so different from my usual button-ups and slacks. I found myself browsing online stores, hovering over women's clothing, my heart pounding as if I were doing something illicit. A week later, Jess caught me staring at her outfit again. This time, a burgundy pencil skirt and a cream-colored sweater. She didn't call me out, but the next day, she left a small paper bag on my desk. Inside was a note, "Thought you might like to try this. No pressure." Beneath it, a simple black skirt, soft and folded neatly. I took it home like a secret, my stomach in knots. That night, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, the skirt resting on my hips, and something inside me cracked open. It wasn't just about the clothes. It was about the person I saw in the reflection, the one I'd been too afraid to acknowledge. Jess never pushed, but she was there, a quiet presence at the edge of my unraveling. She left little things on my desk, a hair clip, a scarf, once a tube of lip gloss with a sticky note that read "For when you're ready." And slowly I realized I was. The first time I came to work wearing the skirt she'd given me, I nearly turned around 3 times in the parking lot. But Jess met me at the door with a smile, like it was the most normal thing in the world. No fanfare, no big announcement, just acceptance. It wasn't all smooth, of course. There were stares, whispers, a few awkward conversations with HR. But Jess stood beside me through it all, teaching me how to walk in heels, how to shape my brows, how to steady my voice when doubt crept in. She wasn't just helping me dress differently, she was helping me become myself. Now, a year later, I go by a different name. My closet is full of colors and textures I never would have dared to touch before. And when I catch my reflection, smooth legs in stockings, hair falling just past my shoulders, I finally recognize the woman looking back at me. All because of a spilled coffee and a coworker who saw me before I even saw myself. The first few weeks after I started dressing more femininely at work were a blur of adrenaline and self-doubt. Every morning felt like stepping onto a tightrope. Would today be the day someone said something cruel? The day I'd finally be called into HR and told I was making people uncomfortable? But Jess was my safety net, always there with an encouraging smile or a discreet thumbs up when I needed it most. One day, she invited me over to her apartment after work under the guise of project brainstorming. When I arrived, she had a makeup palette spread across her coffee table and a mischievous glint in her eye. "Time for your next lesson," she said, patting the space beside her on the couch. I had never worn makeup before, not really. The few times I'd tried at home, I ended up wiping it all off in frustration, convinced I looked like a clown. But Jess was patient, guiding me through foundation, eyeliner, and a soft pink lipstick that made my lips look fuller, more delicate. When she handed me the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My features were softer, more defined, and for the first time, I saw her, the woman I'd been hiding for so long. "You're a natural," Jess said, squeezing my shoulder. After that, our lessons became a regular thing. Some nights, we practiced walking in heels. I wobbled like a newborn deer at first. Other times, she taught me how to tuck my shirt just right to accentuate my waist, or how to accessorize without overdoing it. It wasn't just about the clothes or the makeup, it was about learning how to move through the world as me. Then came the day I decided to go out in public for the first time, not just to work, where Jess's presence shielded me, but somewhere anonymous, where no one knew me. We chose a cafe across town, far enough that the chances of running into someone from the office were slim. I spent an hour getting ready, my hands shaking as I applied my eyeliner. Jess waited by the door, watching me pace. "You don't have to do this if you're not ready," she said gently. But I was ready. Or, at least, I needed to know if I could be. The cafe was warm and bustling, the air thick with the scent of roasted coffee beans. My heart hammered as we stood in line, convinced everyone was staring, judging. But when the barista handed me my latte with a polite, "Here you go, ma'am," something inside me settled. No double take, no confusion, just acceptance. Jess grinned at me over her cup. "Told you." That small victory gave me the courage to keep going. I started venturing out more, grocery stores, bookshops, even a movie theater where I sat in the dark, dressed in a sundress and sandals, marveling at how normal it felt. But the biggest test came when my company announced an office party. Normally, I would have made an excuse to skip it, but Jess insisted. "You've been dressing like you for months now," she said. "It's time to own it." The night of the party, I stood in front of my mirror for what felt like hours, adjusting the straps of my emerald green dress, smoothing non-existent wrinkles. I had chosen it because it reminded me of the first blouse Jess ever lent me, soft, elegant, undeniably feminine. When I arrived, the room was already full of chatter and laughter. A few heads turned as I walked in, but Jess was there immediately, looping her arm through mine. "You look stunning," she whispered. The night passed in a haze of small talk and stolen glances. Some co-workers were warm, complimenting my outfit like it was no different from any other day. Others seemed unsure, keeping their distance. But for the first time, I didn't care. I wasn't hiding anymore. Near the end of the evening, our CEO, a stern woman in her 50s who had never so much as smiled at me, approached. My stomach dropped, bracing for some corporate-approved reprimand. Instead, she nodded at my dress and said, "That color looks lovely on you." Just like that. As the party wound down, Jess and I stood on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below. "I don't know how to thank you," I said, my voice thick. She shrugged, sipping her wine. "You don't have to. Seeing you happy is enough." And for the first time in my life, I truly was. Months later, I legally changed my name. My coworkers adjusted, my family, after some initial confusion, came around, and I started hormone therapy. It wasn't always easy, but it was right. Now, when I walk into the office, I don't see the person I used to be. I see her. Confident. Whole. Free. And it all started with a spilled cup of coffee and a friend who saw me when I couldn't see myself. The first time I saw her in the mirror without any makeup, without any carefully chosen clothes, just me, raw and real, I cried. Not out of sadness, but because after months of slowly peeling back the layers, I finally recognized the face staring back. The hormones were working their subtle magic, softening my edges, rounding my cheeks, but the real change had started long before the first pill. It had started the moment Jess handed me that first blouse and told me it suited me. As my body changed, so did my confidence. I started speaking up in meetings, no longer shrinking into the background. My ideas were sharper, my presence more assured, Not because I was a different person, but because I was finally present in a way I never had been before. My boss even pulled me aside one day to tell me I was being considered for a promotion. "You've really come into your own lately," she said, and I had to bite back a laugh at the understatement. Jess and I grew closer, our friendship deepening beyond just my transition. We spent weekends browsing thrift stores for hidden treasures, sipping iced coffee in the park while she taught me how to braid my now shoulder-length hair. One rainy afternoon, curled up on her couch with old rom-coms playing in the background, she turned to me with an unreadable expression. "Do you ever think about dating?" she asked casually. The question caught me off guard. Dating as me still felt like uncharted territory. I'd gone on a few awkward coffee dates, some wonderful, some disastrous, but nothing serious. I don't even know how to. I gestured vaguely at myself. Explain all this to someone new. Jess set down her wine glass with deliberate care. What if you didn't have to explain? The air between us shifted. I replayed every lingering touch, every time she'd tucked my hair behind my ear just to fix it, the way she always seemed to find reasons to stand close. My breath hitched as her fingers brushed mine, her palm warm against my skin. That first kiss tasted like strawberry lip gloss and possibility. We took it slow, partly because neither of us wanted to ruin our friendship, partly because I was still learning how to be touched as her. The first time Jess saw the scars from my surgery, she traced them with feather-light fingertips before pressing a kiss to each one. "Beautiful," she murmured, and for the first time, I believed her. Now, 2 years later, we share an apartment with a closet big enough for both our wardrobes, though I still steal her sweaters. My old work ID with my dead name sits in a drawer, a relic from a life that feels like someone else's memory. The promotion came through, and sometimes when I pass the break room, I'll see a nervous new hire spill their coffee and remember how it all began. Last month, Jess came home with a small velvet box. Not a ring. She knows I'm not ready for that yet, but a delicate silver necklace with a tiny key pendant. "For the woman who finally unlocked herself," she said, fastening it around my neck. I turned in her arms, the metal cool against my skin, and realized with quiet wonder that I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt like I was pretending. Some mornings, I still wake up expecting the old heaviness, the disconnect between body and soul. But now when I open my eyes, there are painted nails against the sheets, curls tickling my shoulders, and Jess's sleepy smile greeting me like sunrise. The journey isn't over. Maybe it never will be, but for the first time in my life, the path ahead looks less like an obstacle course and more like an open road, stretching bright and boundless before me. And walking beside me, hand in mine, is the woman who helped me find the courage to take that very first step. All because of a spilled cup of coffee and a love story I never saw coming. The first time I attended a company event as my true self, not just cautiously testing the waters, but fully her, was the annual summer gala. Months ago, the thought of walking into a room full of colleagues in a formal gown would have sent me into a panic. But now, standing in front of the mirror in a flowing champagne-colored dress, my hair swept into an elegant updo with a few loose curls framing my face, I felt excited. Jess appeared behind me, her reflection glowing in the soft light. She wore a deep emerald green dress that made her eyes shine, and when she rested her hands on my bare shoulders, I could feel the warmth of her pride radiating through her touch. "You're going to turn every head in that room," she murmured, pressing a kiss just below my ear. The gala was held in a grand hotel ballroom, all crystal chandeliers and flickering candlelight. As we stepped inside, I instinctively reached for Jess's hand, my pulse quickening at the sea of familiar faces. But then something remarkable happened. No one gasped. No one stared. A few people smiled warmly, others simply nodded in greeting as they always had. It was as if they had always seen me this way. Halfway through the evening, Richard from accounting, a man who had once awkwardly avoided eye contact with me in the elevator, approached with his wife. "You look lovely tonight," he said, and his wife added, "That color is perfect on you." Simple words, but they settled into my chest like a long-awaited exhale. Later, Swaying to a slow song with Jess in the center of the dance floor, her arms looped around my neck, I realized this was happiness. Not the performative kind, not the fleeting rush of validation, but the deep, quiet joy of being exactly who you were meant to be, surrounded by people who loved you for it. As the seasons changed, so did my life in ways I never anticipated. I started volunteering at a local LGBTQ+ center, mentoring other trans women who were just beginning their journeys. There was something profoundly healing about sitting across from a nervous 18-year-old, her hands trembling as she applied lipstick for the first time, and telling her, "I know how scary this feels, but I promise it gets better." One evening, after a particularly emotional session, Jess met me at the door with a mug of hot chocolate and a knowing smile. "You're changing lives, you know," she said. I started to brush it off, but she cupped my face in her hands, her thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't even realized had fallen. "You're allowed to be proud of yourself. Look how far you've come." And she was right. The woman I was now, confident, compassionate, unafraid to take up space, would have been unrecognizable to the person I'd been just a few years ago, drowning in self-doubt and dysphoria. The biggest surprise came on a random Tuesday morning. Jess had been acting strangely all week, distracted, fidgety, disappearing into our bedroom for suspiciously long stretches of time. When I walked into the kitchen that morning, I found a single red rose on the countertop with a note. "Follow the trail. Beautiful." A trail of rose petals led me down the hallway, past framed photos of our journey together. Me in that first borrowed blouse, us laughing at pride, our messy attempts at baking Christmas cookies last winter. At the end of the trail was our bedroom door, slightly ajar. I pushed it open to find Jess standing there, surrounded by flickering candles, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Before I could ask what was happening, she dropped to one knee. The world narrowed to the velvet box in her hands, the way her voice trembled as she said, "I fell in love with you before you even knew who you were. I can't imagine spending the rest of my life with anyone else." I don't remember saying yes. I think I just threw my arms around her, laughing and crying all at once. But suddenly there was a ring on my finger, a perfect pear-shaped diamond catching the candlelight. Our wedding was small but radiant, held in a sunlit garden bursting with wildflowers. I wore a lace gown that made me feel like a fairy tale come to life, and when Jess saw me walking toward her, her hands flew to her mouth in stunned delight. As we exchanged vows, I thought about the winding path that had led us here, the spilled coffee, the secret shopping trips, the nights spent whispering our fears and dreams into the dark. Every stumble, every moment of doubt had been worth it for this. Standing in the sunlight, surrounded by love, finally home in my own skin. When the officiant pronounced us married, Jess didn't wait for permission to kiss me. She pulled me in, her lips soft and sure against mine. And in that moment, I understood what true belonging felt like. Now, when I pass a mirror, I don't just see her, I see myself. A woman who fought to exist. A survivor. A wife. And when I wake up each morning to Jess's sleepy smile, her fingers tracing idle patterns along my collarbone, I think about how extraordinary it is that something as simple as a borrowed blouse could unravel a lifetime of hiding and weave me into something brand new. The journey isn't perfect. There are still days when the world feels heavy, when old fears creep in. But now I know I don't have to face them alone. Now I have her, and that's more than enough. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button. And let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.